Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to see how the Vega 64 holds up in 2024. This graphics card came out in August of 2017 and was the best AMD had to offer at the time. It has 8 GB of HBM2 VRAM with the option to expand to system memory. It uses two 8-pin power connectors and the maximum power draw is 220 watts for the air-cooled model, while the water-cooled model has 295 watts. According to the Tech Power Up relative GPU performance chart, it should be somewhere between GTX 1070 Ti and GTX 1080. For testing, I used it in a system with Ryzen 7 5700X, 32 GB of RAM, and all games were run from NVMe SSD. You can find details about the system in the video description. I have also installed the latest driver version available at the time of the recording. Without further ado, let's get into benchmarking. The first game on today's list is also the newest one, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. In 1080p resolution and with the lowest graphical settings, we achieved an average of 36 FPS. This is not a bad result, but I thought we could get a little more out of it. Since this game can use a FSR, I turned it on and set to quality, and this way we managed to get an average of 51 FPS without losing much image quality. I must add that GPU pleasantly surprised me with the temperature for a blow style type. It mostly hovered around 70 degrees Celsius during the whole test. The next is a game that has been reborn since the release of the series of the same name, Fallout 4. Unless mods are installed, this game maxes out at 60 FPS. Which is no problem to achieve with Vega 64 graphics card, even at ultra settings. The average FPS you see on the screen is higher because of a mod I have installed. It unlocks the FPS during loading to make it faster. I saw a couple of cases where the FPS dropped below 60, but this didn't happen that often, so the gaming experience was great. Mortal Kombat 11 has the same result. At 1080p resolution and on the highest graphical settings, we achieved a locked 60 FPS. And the graphics card utilization was around 50% and often much lower than that. Ghostwire Tokyo is next. Not the latest game, but I think it's something that would make sense to play on Vega 64 graphics. At 1080p resolution and max settings, we averaged about 68 FPS, with the occasional drop below 60. For the best gaming experience, I'd probably lower the details a bit to keep the FPS above 60 all the time. Metro Last Light is a relatively demanding game, even by today's standards. When I first started it, I couldn't believe that we were only getting 11 to 12 FPS on average. Since that seems too low, I started searching through the options for a solution. It turns out that the advanced physics options was causing the problem. It's cleverly located in the game options rather than video options, where it might make more sense. Turning this option off changed the gameplay completely. With maximum settings, minus advanced physics of course, we achieved an average of 80 FPS, with a minimum of 65. Resident Evil 3 is next, and this was another pleasant surprise. I locked the FPS at 120, and we often hit this number. At 1080p and max settings we averaged around 104 FPS with the occasional dip below 100. Of course, it's possible to lower the graphical settings, but I really don't see a reason to. Now we are going to visit a few games with a built-in benchmark. The first of them is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which came out a little after the graphics card that we are testing. Like all the other games on this list, it was tested at 1080p resolution, and with ultra graphics settings it had a result of 72 FPS, although I saw it drop below 60 on several occasions. Next is Far Cry 6, which on ultra settings achieved similar results as the game tested before this one. 76 frames per second on average, to be precise. The minimum FPS in this game was 70 and the maximum was 85 frames per second. The last built-in benchmark is Rainbow Six Siege. Considering it is a multiplayer game, I believe that it is important that it has as much FPS as possible. Vega 64 achieved an average of 193 FPS on ultra settings, which means that by lowering the settings, it is certainly possible to achieve 240 for that true high FPS experience. Although I don't play multiplayer games much, I think this graphics card is good in that field. I tested the finals at the training level, and at the highest details I saw an average of about 100 FPS, although there were a lot of ups and downs. The range was from about 85 to over 130 FPS. It looks great, but I think that for a good online experience the settings need to be lowered a bit. Fortnite is next. At DirectX 12 and high details, epic U distance, we averaged about 80 FPS, with occasional spike above 100. I know these aren't the settings most of you will use, but at least you have an idea of what the minimum number we will get. With competitive game settings, we can cross the line of 144 FPS without any problems. And the last game for today is Apex Legends. Just like in the finals, I used the practice area for testing. And here Vega 64 did not disappoint, achieving an average of 105 FPS at the maximum possible details. When several things are happening on the screen at the same time, I saw a drop to 70 FPS, but this did not spoil the gaming experience. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the results that Vega 64 has shown. I think it's still relevant and deserves a place in a low to mid-budget gaming PC. That's all from me for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, bye!